Imagine marching alongside a powerful army, not just composed of warriors but masters of various crafts, builders of empires, men prepared to face death and forge history. Roman legions are often seen as mere instruments of conquest and destruction, but that's just the surface of a much more complex and fascinating reality. Within these formations, each legionary played a crucial role, not only on the battlefield but in building an empire that shaped the world as we know it. What set these men apart was not just their brutality but their rigorous training, unwavering discipline, and the ability to face challenges that tested both body and mind. In this video, you'll dive into the world of a Roman legionary, exploring the secrets of their training, the harshness of their daily life, and the battles that defined their destiny. Get ready to discover what it truly meant to be part of one of history's most formidable military forces, from the early steps in training to the climax in the heat of battle. You're about to uncover the life of a soldier who not only fought but also built and defended an empire. Stick with us until the end and see how these stories shaped the fate of Rome and the ancient world. The initiation of a legionary, the first step in the Roman army. Imagine yourself on a cold morning on the plains of ancient Italy, where a young man is about to take the first step on a journey that will define the rest of his life. Becoming a legionary wasn't just a choice. It was a lifelong commitment, sealed with oaths of loyalty to the emperor and the empire. Recruitment began early, often in adolescence, when young men were selected for their physical strength and determination. This first step was marked by a formal ceremony, where the new recruit received his basic gear and was introduced to the rigorous discipline that would come to define his existence. Joining the legion meant leaving behind the life he knew. Recruits came from all over the empire, from the fertile fields of Gaul to the mountains of Hispania. These young men were then subjected to a thorough inspection, assessing their physical abilities and endurance. Those who didn't meet the standards were summarily rejected, as the legion demanded only the best. Those who passed this initial screening were then introduced to the harsh reality of military training, where they would learn to become a cohesive unit of soldiers ready for any challenge. The integration process into the legion wasn't just physical. New legionaries were also taught the values and traditions that upheld the Roman army. These values included unquestionable obedience to superiors, camaraderie among fellow soldiers, and bravery in the face of adversity. The legion wasn't just a military force. It was a community functioning like a finely tuned machine, where each soldier had his role, and the failure of one could mean the ruin of all. Thus, the first step in a legionary's life was also a dive into a world of duties and responsibilities. For new recruits, adjusting to military life often involved psychological challenges as great as the physical ones. Leaving behind family and home, getting used to the relentless routine of marches, drills, and training, and accepting the constant possibility of death in battle were realities that shaped a legionary's character. Those who couldn't handle these pressures didn't last long. However, those who persevered emerged transformed, ready to defend and expand the boundaries of Rome. Finally, a legionary's initiation was also a moment of hope. For many, life in the legion offered opportunities that would be impossible in their hometowns. Military service promised not only glory in combat, but also the possibility of wealth, land, and a respected position in Roman society. This combination of challenges and promises made the initiation both a test and a gateway to a future full of possibilities. Rigorous training, shaping body and mind. Once a recruit was accepted into the legion, he faced the relentless reality of Roman military training. It wasn't just about learning to handle a sword or march in formation. Legionary training was an exhaustive process that transformed ordinary men into combat machines. The days began at dawn, with marches of miles carrying heavy armor and gear. Physical endurance was constantly tested, as a legionary needed to be prepared for long campaigns where fatigue was as dangerous as the enemy. Physical training was just part of the preparation. Legionaries were also taught the military tactics that made the Roman army so feared. Recruits learned to fight in formation, execute complex maneuvers under their superior's command, and use the terrain to their advantage in combat. Each legionary had to know his place in the formation and trust that his comrades would do the same. This level of discipline and coordination was what allowed the legions to overcome enemies often outnumbering them. But training wasn't limited to the battlefield. Legionaries were also educated in practical skills that could be useful in both wartime and peacetime. Building fortified camps, basic engineering, field medicine, and even the ability to forge and maintain their own weapons were part of the curriculum. The Roman legion was a self-sufficient force, capable of building roads, bridges, and fortresses, ensuring the army could operate in any environment, no matter how hostile. Life in the training camp was harsh and disciplined. The rules were strict, and punishments were severe for those who showed weakness or indiscipline. Legionaries lived in Spartan conditions, with little time for rest or leisure. The goal was to toughen the men, both physically and mentally, so they would be ready for the brutal realities of war. The legion had no place for the weak, and only those who demonstrated unbreakable willpower could expect to thrive in its ranks. Ultimately, training served as a rite of passage. Those who completed it were no longer mere recruits but soldiers ready to defend the empire with their lives. The training process was a complete transformation, where the body and mind were shaped to serve Rome. Each legionary knew that, after training, he was prepared to face any challenge, whether on the battlefield or anywhere duty called. Discipline and duty, life within the legion. The life of a Roman legionary was characterized by ironclad discipline and a profound sense of duty. After the initial training, each soldier fully integrated into the legion's routine, where each day was meticulously organized. Discipline was the backbone of the Roman army, and everyone, from the youngest recruit to the most experienced centurion, was subject to strict rules. Obeying orders wasn't just expected, it was a matter of survival, both for the individual and for the legion as a whole. Within the legion, soldiers lived in campaign tents or, in peacetime, in permanent barracks. Life was austere, with few comforts. The food was simple, consisting mainly of bread, salted meat, and watered-down wine. However, this simplicity was not seen as deprivation, but as part of the ongoing preparation for the demands of war. Each legionary was responsible for his own upkeep, from cleaning weapons to repairing his gear. Self-sufficiency was a virtue, and the ability to take care of oneself and one's comrades was highly valued. Discipline within the legion was also reflected in the relationships between soldiers and their commanders. Centurions, leaders of groups of about 80 men, were figures of unquestionable authority. Known for their bravery and experience, centurions led by example, being the first to enter combat and the last to retreat. They imposed strict discipline, with severe punishments for any infraction. Actions such as disobedience, cowardice, or abandoning one's post could be punished by death, highlighting the seriousness with which order was maintained. Despite the rigidity, life within the legion also fostered a strong sense of camaraderie. Legionaries formed deep bonds with their comrades, sharing not only the hardships of training and battle, but also moments of leisure and celebration. These relationships were essential for unit cohesion, creating an environment where soldiers could trust each other unconditionally. This unity was one of the factors that made the Roman legions such an effective fighting force. At the heart of a legionary's life was an unwavering duty to Rome. This duty went beyond merely following orders. It was a lifelong commitment to the empire. Legionaries were constantly reminded that their actions not only protected their families and lands, but also ensured Rome's prosperity and continuity as a global power. This elevated sense of purpose, combined with rigorous discipline, made legionaries see themselves as part of something much greater than themselves, willing to sacrifice everything for the good of the legion and the empire. Weapons and tactics, the legionaries' arsenal. The success of the Roman legions on the battlefield depended not only on the discipline and formation of the men, but also on the weapons and tactics they employed. A legionary's arsenal was meticulously designed to be lethal, efficient, and adaptable to various combat situations. The most iconic weapon of the legionary was the gladius, a short sword approximately 24 to 28 inches long, ideal for close combat. The gladius was used in conjunction with the scutum, a large rectangular shield that provided protection to the soldier and allowed for the formation of the famous shield walls. In addition to the gladius and scutum, each legionary carried a pugio, a dagger that served both as a last resort weapon and a utility tool. Another crucial piece of the arsenal was the pilum, a throwing spear designed to penetrate enemy shields and armor. The pilum was engineered so that, upon hitting a shield, its shaft would bend, rendering the shield useless and complicating the opponent's movement. This weapon demonstrated the tactical ingenuity of the Romans, who always sought advantages even in the smallest details. The tactics employed by the Roman legions were equally sophisticated and effective. One of the most famous formations was the testudo, where legionaries positioned themselves in a compact formation, with their shields aligned like a turtle's shell, protecting the unit from arrows and projectiles. Other tactics included flanking maneuvers, where one part of the legion would draw the enemy and while another attacked from the sides or the rear, and using terrain to ambush and divide enemy forces. The flexibility of the legions was one of their greatest assets. Unlike many of their enemies, who relied on massive frontal assaults or a single battle tactic, the Romans adapted their strategies as needed. This included the ability to fight in diverse terrains, from the forests of Germania to the deserts of the Middle East. Legionaries were trained to maintain formation under pressure and to respond quickly to their commander's orders, allowing them to adjust their tactics in the midst of battle. Roman military success cannot be attributed to a single factor, but rather to the combination of superior weaponry, innovative tactics, and the soldiers' unyielding discipline. Each legionary knew that their life depended not only on their personal skill, but also on the effectiveness of the tactics and equipment in their hands. This interdependence between the soldier, their weapons, and the tactics employed was what made the Roman legions an almost invincible force, shaping the destiny of entire nations across the centuries. Building and conquest beyond the battlefield. Roman legions were not just combat forces, but also true builders of empires. One of the most impressive aspects of a legionary's life was their ability to transform the terrain into fortifications and infrastructure essential for military success and Roman expansion. Each legionary was, in addition to being a soldier, a skilled engineer and builder. From the establishment of temporary camps to the construction of bridges, roads, and fortresses, the ability to create robust and functional structures was crucial for maintaining supply lines and securing strategic positions. Building camps was a daily activity for the marching legions. At the end of each day's march, the legionaries were responsible for erecting a castrum, a fortified camp complete with walls, ditches, and watchtowers. This process followed a strict pattern, with each legionary performing a specific role, from digging trenches to raising palisades. The efficiency in constructing these camps allowed the legions to move quickly without compromising their security, often surprising enemies who did not expect to find such a well-protected army in such a short time. In addition to camps, the legions were tasked with building the famous Roman roads, which connected the vast regions of the empire and allowed for rapid troop movement. These roads were true engineering marvels, many of which are still in use today. Building these roads was a monumental task, involving excavation, paving, and the construction of bridges to cross rivers and valleys. Maintaining these roads was also a continuous responsibility for the legionaries, ensuring that Rome could project its military and economic power to any corner of the empire. The legions were also frequently called upon to build permanent fortifications in newly conquered regions. These fortresses served as military bases and administrative centers, solidifying Roman control over the territories. Constructing a fortress could take months or even years, with legionaries working tirelessly to erect imposing walls, watchtowers, and fortified gates. These structures not only defended the borders, but also symbolized Rome's presence and dominance, intimidating conquered peoples and deterring rebellions. Finally, the construction skills of the legionaries were as highly valued as their combat abilities. The ability to build and maintain the empire's vital infrastructure allowed Rome to sustain long and successful campaigns, even in distant territories. Thus, a legionary's life extended far beyond the battlefield, encompassing the creation of a lasting legacy of roads, fortresses, and cities that shaped the ancient world and continued to influence civilizations for centuries. Combat, facing the enemy on the front lines. Despite the many responsibilities outside the battlefield, the true test of a Roman legionary was combat. The legions were the main shock force of the empire, and every legionary knew that sooner or later they would face the enemy on the front lines. Combat was brutal, demanding not only courage but also relentless discipline and refined technical skill. The battle began with the approach of the forces, where the formation and cohesion of the legions were crucial for maintaining unity against disorganized attacks from opponents. Legionaries faced the enemy in tight formations, where each man had a vital role. The most common formation was the cohort, consisting of about 480 soldiers arranged in compact rows. In the heat of battle, the legionaries shielded themselves with their shields and advanced in unison, creating an impenetrable wall of shields and spears. This formation allowed the legionaries to attack in an organized manner, protecting each other while advancing against the enemy. Discipline was essential. Any break in the formation could be fatal, exposing the legion to devastating attacks. The battle was a cacophony of sounds and movements, where sight and sound blended into a controlled chaos. Command shouts, the clash of metal against metal, and the roar of hundreds of men fighting for their lives created an atmosphere of extreme tension. Each legionary had to remain calm and follow their superiors' orders, even when faced with imminent death. The ability to maintain composure under pressure was what set the legionaries apart from less disciplined warriors of other armies. Hand-to-hand combat was intense and merciless. The gladius, with its short, sharp blade, was ideal for quick and deadly strikes in close quarters. Legionaries were trained to aim for the enemy's less protected areas, such as the abdomen and throat, maximizing the impact of each attack. The battle often turned into a contest of endurance, where physical strength and technique combined to determine who would survive. The ability to fight efficiently and economically was crucial, as exhaustion could quickly become as dangerous an enemy as the opponent itself. In the end, victory in combat depended on a combination of discipline, tactics, and individual skill. Each legionary knew that their survival and the success of the legion depended on their ability to fight as a cohesive unit. The glory of victory was collective, shared by all who survived the battlefield. However, legionaries also understood that the price of victory could be high, and many would not return home. Nevertheless, the prospect of glory, honor, and service to the empire motivated these men to face any challenge, making the Roman legions an unparalleled combat force in history. The legacy of the legionary, the mark left on history. The story of the Roman legionaries doesn't end on the battlefield. Their legacy endures through the centuries, shaping the course of Western civilization. Every legionary who served the empire left their mark, not only through their military achievements but also through the cultural and social impact the Roman legions had on the ancient world. Legionaries were crucial in expanding Rome's borders, transforming it from a relatively small city-state into a vast empire that dominated much of the known world. The influence of the legionaries extended far beyond military campaigns. They played a key role in the Romanization of conquered territories, spreading Roman language, culture, and laws throughout the empire. The presence of the legions in new provinces helped establish order and stability, laying the groundwork for the development of cities, trade, and infrastructure. The roads they built, the cities they founded, and the fortifications they erected became the foundations of many modern nations in Europe and the Mediterranean. Moreover, the spirit of the Roman legionary, discipline, loyalty, and service to the greater good, profoundly influenced military traditions that followed. The principles of organization, training, and tactics developed by the Romans were studied and adopted by armies throughout history, from the Middle Ages to modern times. Even after the fall of the Roman Empire, the legacy of the legionaries continued to be revered, with many military leaders seeking to emulate the success and effectiveness of the Roman legions in their own armed forces. The impact of the legionaries is also evident in popular culture and collective memory. Stories of their campaigns, the epic battles they fought, and the myth of the invincibility of the Roman legions have captured the imagination of generations. These soldiers are frequently depicted in books, movies, and TV series, symbolizing the power and glory of Rome. The fascination with the discipline and organization of the legions continues to inspire both scholars and enthusiasts of military history. Ultimately, the legacy of the Roman legionary is a testament to the power of a life dedicated to duty and service. They didn't just fight and die for Rome. They helped build an empire whose influences still resonate in the modern world. The mark left by the legionaries is indelible, a lasting reminder that, within their ranks, ordinary men made history, shaped nations, and influenced the destiny of Western civilization.